What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to talk about common mistakes that Funko Pop collectors make. I will say that I did reach out to the community. I did a community post here on YouTube, and I did do a post on my Instagram account as well to get feedback from community members, fellow collectors, to see what they thought about this particular topic. And I really liked a lot of the feedback that I got. So you will see some comments throughout this video. Of course, I could not use everybody's comment, but I do appreciate everyone that took the time to comment on those videos, with one exception. I mean, there were some people that, that tried to be funny, and they said collecting pops is a mistake. But of course, they were trolling. And I will say this: when it comes to Funko Pop content, whether it's a YouTube channel, Instagram account, whatever it may be, if you have people talking negative about you collecting, you got to wonder, why are they there at all? They're obviously going out of their way to be hateful. Just block those people and move on. That is my suggestion. That's the way I tend to handle things, because it's just such a waste of energy to go out of your way to hate on something that you supposedly don't like, but you're spending a lot of time, on that content. That's just the way I look at it personally. But yeah, I'm going to focus on the real feedback that I got from those posts throughout this video. Of course, I will share my own opinions as well. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to tell you how you should be a collector, how you should approach Funko Pop collecting. I'm giving suggestions, but at the end of the day, it's your money. You do what you feel is best for your collection, and make sure that you're having fun with the hobby. That is one thing I would say that I think you should do, is make sure you're having fun with this. Don't let it stress you too much, because it really should be about enjoying this hobby. But yeah, I'm gonna give my feedback and my opinions, but yeah, what you do at the end of the day, that is totally up to you. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into this. So one thing that I saw several comments basically focusing on is FOMO. And if you're not familiar with that term, it means the fear of missing out. And it does apply to other hobbies as well. But in this case, when we're talking about Funko Pops, it's mainly about having that fear of missing out on rare figures. So that does lead to various problems. Basically, for one thing, it's stress. I mean, you're definitely putting stress on yourself when you worry too much about the rare figures, and I think it can cause you even to damage relationships. I've had people that are supposedly trying to be my friend, but when it becomes obvious very quickly that they're basically just trying to use me to hopefully get a heads up on rare figures, or to get me to try to trade with them, possibly rare figures and things like that. It's very unfortunate when things like that happen. And I know it doesn't just happen with me. I'm sure other people have experienced this, where it's obvious that somebody's not really trying to be your friend. They're just trying to use you to help with their collection. And it's sad, when things happen like that. I don't think you should ever overlook human feelings for vinyl figures. That just shouldn't happen, in my opinion. So yeah, it can be damaging to relationships. It can be stressful to yourself. And I think, and you're going to see some other people talking about this, but you should really focus on what do you want your collection to be. Don't worry so much about what is rare and what are other people collecting, because this is something else that has happened. Oh, and by the way, I do want to point out, I'll be showing the comments throughout the video, but I'm not going to read them like word for word. But again, I do appreciate everybody that did share these comments. But yeah, what I was about to say though is that, yeah, you shouldn't really focus so much on whether or not other people are buying that figure. If you want something, you go for it. And I have had people ask me sometimes, are you going to buy it? And I know sometimes that's coming from them wanting to know if I'm going to buy it, because then that's making their purchasing decision. And I just don't think it should be that way. I think as individuals, we should make our own purchasing decisions, and I don't like to make those decisions for other people. And as a matter of fact, I've had people ask me directly, should I buy this figure or should I not? Do you think this is going to go up in value or not? And I'm not a psychic. I don't know for sure with certain figures. And like I said, at the end of the day, I just feel like people should make their own purchasing decisions and not get so caught up on focusing on the rare figures. I always use this metallic Toucan Sam as an example, because I'll never forget when that figure came out. It was like a surprise drop. I don't think people really had any heads up on it at all. If there was any heads up, it might have been like right before it actually dropped. But it's a very limited number figure. Ad icons has been very popular with Funko. I think it's kind of cooled down a little bit now because there's so much more of ad icons, but still this figure ended up being high value, of course. But it was amazing to see people's reactions. Like, some people acted like they lost a family member when they didn't get this figure. Some people were highly upset, and I just couldn't process how people could be so upset about a figure they didn't even know about until that day, you know. So again, I think FOMO can be dangerous in that way, where you stress and you get angry pretty much for no good reason when it comes down to it. And then along with that, I saw a lot of people too talking about how you should really think about what you want your collection to be, and knowing about collecting in general, especially if you're a new collector, and especially when it comes to certain like common figures and then also certain store exclusives. There's no reason to stress over them. There's no reason to run and pay, you know, a high price, you know, or, you know, like a flipper price basically for certain figures when they're going to be readily available if you just be patient. And that's a big key thing, in my opinion, is to learn to be patient as a collector. There are times when you need to learn to just be patient. Like, if it's a common figure, it'll probably get to your area eventually, or it'll be available online eventually. There are some retailers that do big numbers on their exclusives. You know, Box Lunch is a good example. They tend to have big numbers for their exclusives. So a lot of times, if you're just patient, you'll get the figures you want. You don't always have to get it right away, and you don't always have to be the first person on social media to show something off either. I think that's another kind of dangerous way of thinking. So yeah, a lot of times if you're patient, you're going to get the figures you want, and you will get them at a retail price, you know, get them at a fair price without having to stress over it. So something else that came up, and this is something that happens with people when they first start collecting. I know it happened with me, and it's understandable. You know, like I said, I'm guilty of it myself. You see a lot of figures, way more than you realize Funko maybe even makes if you're new to Funko. Like, when I first started collecting, I was kind of shocked by how many different celebrities and how many different characters that Funko was able to produce. I don't think I've ever seen any other company that can do as much with licensing as Funko can. So I was really surprised by that, and I went a little bit crazy. Like, I went from having 1 pop to 3 pops to over 60 within like my first about 2 months or so. Like, my collection jumped up really fast. So and along with that, you know, some people will try to basically complete collections, and so I had several people that pointed out that people will try to complete collections even if there are figures within that collection that they know they don't like. I think that is something that is regrettable eventually. And, you know, some people eventually they have to downsize because of space, which we will get to later on within this video. But I'll say this, if you want to be a completionist, that's fine. That's completely up to you. Just know, though, that that can be very stressful with Funko, because Funko puts out a lot. And even when you think you have a collection complete, don't be surprised if there's more on the way. And don't be surprised as well if they suddenly put out a rare figure that's going to be very tough for you to try to get to complete that set. I remember a lot of Stranger Things fans were upset when Funko did that gold version of Hopper that was available at their fun event that they do during the summer, the Fun Days event. And only people in the room got that figure. There were very few of them. And yeah, like I said, people were upset about that were trying to be Stranger Things completionists. I remember with I think it was the Otter Pops. Was it the blue one? Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I think it was the blue Otter Pop that ended up being a con exclusive limited number. So a lot of people were upset because they could not complete that set. So just know, if you're going to try to be completionist in that way, that you might end up with some frustration, because like I said, Funko puts out a lot. And even when you think figures are vaulted, before you know it, there could be a full new wave, some updated pops, and then yeah, your set is not really complete anymore. So the way I look at completion is, if I'm trying to complete a set, I'm trying to get all the figures that I really like the design of. I don't need every single figure if I'm not truly interested in them. I just want to focus on what figures do I really like the designs of, which of those do I want to add into my collection. Okay, so moving on here, a lot of people basically said, have a focus when you start collecting. And this is something I had to learn the hard way as well. And there are still times where I will do an impulse buy and kind of regret it some. But I've learned to be better about this overall. But I think it does help to know which specific lines do you really want to focus on collecting. So for me, as an example, I mainly collect Marvel, DC, some horror figures. There have been other lines I was interested in that I've kind of lost interest in. Like, I was collecting Rick and Morty. I don't really collect Rick and Morty anymore. I'm not into the series as much as I used to be. Same thing with Walking Dead and some other franchises as well. But yeah, I've mainly narrowed it down to Marvel, DC, and horror figures. Those are my main 3. So I think it is helpful in terms of spacing, and then, in terms of how much money you're going to spend, to try to have that focus of what you want your collection to end up being. I think that does help a lot. Okay, something else that was brought up here, I found this interesting too, and I actually went into this store, Second and Charles, not long after I saw this comment, and they actually had this deal going on, buy 2, get the 3rd free. So the comment here is basically saying be wary of deals like this, because sometimes it will cause you to buy figures that you don't really want, and you're not going to want to keep in your collection in the long run. I know that GameStop, from time to time, they'll have it where you buy 3 and you get a 4th. And I've been in GameStop when they had that deal going on, and I'm looking and I see like just 1 or 2 figures that I'm interested in. So, I tell myself I don't need to buy more, just to try to get that deal. Like, let me just get what I want, or even wait for another time for a different type of deal when it's maybe like a percentage off, of the overall sale on collectibles. So, yeah, just be wary of those deals. Basically, I think that is some good advice there. Something else that was brought up here within this comment, and by the way, I'm not saying the names of everybody that commented. For one, some of the names are a little bit difficult to say, but then also I don't want to mess around and leave somebody out, so that I'm just not going to say the names as I move along here. I am appreciative of everybody that commented, but I'm just not going to say every name here. But within this comment, this individual is basically pointing out that some people don't protect their pops, and that's another mistake that I've made. I do regret not getting some of my pops in protectors. I'm trying to do better. For example, recently, Matt Murdock, of course, Daredevil's pops have gone up because of his presence in the MCU. And I did make sure I went ahead and put my Matt Murdock pop in a protector finally, especially because the value shot up. But there are some other pops I should have had in protectors already, and I have not done so. Like my Shaun of the Dead pops, I don't think they're like way high value, but they need to be in protectors. That's something I got to take care of. My Happy Joy Ren and Stimpy 2-pack, I did not put that in a pop protector right away. I had it out of a protector for a long time, and once I finally did put it in a protector, it had already gotten some shelf wear. So yeah, it's something to consider, basically putting your pops into protectors, especially the ones that you think may have some value eventually. This is just something very quick here. I've seen other people mention this, that, if you're going to open your pops up to take them out of box, if you just want to maybe show them off real quick to take, like for photography, or like in a YouTube video, TikTok, whatever it is, and you're going to put them back in the box and you want to take care of the box, then yeah, it probably is best to open them from the bottom. And what I'll do sometimes is even use like a credit card or something to kind of slide there and open them up carefully to avoid box damage, and put it back in carefully, of course. So yeah, just a simple thing, but yeah, if you're going to possibly end up with box damage, I think it is better for it to be on the bottom of the box than on the top, or that can be kind of irritating to see. So just a little quick tip there. And definitely, let's go ahead and address value. Now, I've done a video about this in the past. It was years ago now at this point, and I basically said that for one thing, I don't think you should get into pop collecting just for value. I mean, I think there's easier ways to make money and save money and invest money. Yeah, I think there are better ways to do it. But if you are going to be a pop collector, then yeah, I think you should maybe treat them like an investment, because you never know when you might need the money, especially if medical expenses come up or something like that, and you have to sell off some pops for some quick cash. You want them to be in good condition, because of course that affects what you can sell them for. But in general, I don't think it's a good idea to collect for value. Again, what you decide to do, that's completely up to you. But just me personally, I would not collect for value. I think that's actually kind of stressful to do, and not worth it in the long run, because pop prices do tend to fluctuate. Some figures that have been triple digit in the past have dropped down now to where they're like around $40 or so, so it's a very unsteady market, I guess you could say, when it comes to Funko Pop. So again, this is just me personally, and I some other people obviously here feel the same way, is that it's not great to jump into collecting just to focus on value. Okay, so another comment here that I thought was kind of humorous is saying Funko needs to make whatever certain character it might be without taking the time to actually look that up. And it only takes a couple of seconds, honestly, to do a quick Google search to see if Funko has done a character before. And again, it's something I'm guilty of. There has been times where I thought a character hadn't been made, and I'm like, why didn't Funko do that? And then I finally go ahead and look it up, and I'm like, oh, they did, but it's been a while, you know. And of course, sometimes a figure that came out years ago may get an updated, you know, variant or whatever it may be. But yeah, if you want to see Funko do something, yeah, Google it first to see if they've actually already done it before. Yeah, it doesn't take that long to do. All right, next up here, thinking exclusive means rare. This is something else that I think is a very good point. Exclusives, a lot of times, well, I won't say a lot of times, but I'll say it this way. Sometimes they are actually out there in bigger numbers than you might expect. And there are some stores that don't stock especially well. And when I say stores, I mean in certain areas. So like my Target may look very different from your Target. You might go to your Target and let's say you don't see any blacklight pops at all. So maybe you're assuming that they're very rare. But then you come to one of my Targets and they are flooded with blacklight pops sometimes. So yeah, not all stores stock exactly the same. So yeah, not all exclusives are rare basically. And as a matter of fact, there are times when a common turns out to be more rare than even a variant of that same character. So yeah, I would not get so caught up in worrying about exclusives and get so caught up in focusing on stickers. Even sometimes when things actually have a number on them, that number even can be sketchy, especially when you start to consider, well, it's a separate release overseas, and that number doesn't matter overseas, you know. So yeah, I would not get so caught up in stickers basically and thinking that exclusive means rare. Now, even though I addressed FOMO earlier, and a lot of people did address FOMO, there are times when you just need to go ahead and pull the trigger. I've seen this happen so many times where I give the rumor of a figure coming up on Funko.com. It finally releases, and I talk about it in Funko News, you know, and then it's sitting there, and I'm like, it's available, and maybe even in the next Funko News video, I say it's still available, and then it finally sells out, and I see people commenting, oh, I should have got that. Yeah, like when something is just sitting there and you know that you really want it, like why not go ahead and get it if you have the money? Because once it sells out, I mean, that's on you. Now there are times, of course, we know how it can be with Funko.com and even with some other websites. Sometimes if something is highly sought after, you may miss out, and I think that's something that you do have to learn to accept as a collector. There are going to be times when you're going to miss out, and yeah, that's just part of the game in my opinion. But yeah, if you really want something, again, like I'm saying, just go ahead and get it. And I think especially when it comes to Funko.com, because it's not always a guarantee that those figures will restock. So I'm not trying to encourage FOMO. I'm just saying, if you know a figure is readily available and you want it, just go ahead and get it so you don't have to feel that regret later on. Next up here, ordering a bunch of pops to try and get a chase. Now, me personally, I don't really do this with pops. I will get, like, if a figure has a chase that I'm interested in, I may order 2. That's it when it comes to pops. I don't really like doing more than that. And a lot of times now, especially because there are some smaller retailers that do chase bundles and they don't cost a whole lot. You know, I feel like a common and a chase together, if a site is selling that for $40, that might be worth it for me instead of running around from store to store or doing multiple orders hoping that I get that chase. When it starts to go above 40, it's a little bit tougher there for me personally. But yeah, I don't like to order multiple pops trying to get a chase. And even with sodas, I need to start doing better. I'm definitely guilty of ordering too many sodas. I will own up to that, and I got to do better about that. So yeah, I'm gonna stop playing that roulette game so much with soda chases. But again, what you do individually with your money, that's up to you. But I do think people regret that sometimes when they order, like, let's say a case of pops just to get the chase, and then it might be hard to resell those extra figures that you don't need. So you got to basically weigh that whether or not it's worth it for you personally. Okay, so next up here, space. You definitely have to consider space. I'm lucky that I do live in a home where I have plenty of space, so I've been able to kind of spread my collection out some. I still run into the issue where I want certain figures together and it just doesn't work anymore, so I have to kind of reorganize things or just, you know, start a new section basically. So I still, you know, have to kind of play around with my spacing. But yeah, you got to look at spacing. For me personally, I'm going to say this as well. When you get to the point where you have figures that are like 2 and 3 rows deep and things like that, and you can't even see a lot of your figures anymore, to me, it kind of defeats the purpose of having them. Personally, I really love to be able to walk around my home and see my collection and have that, hit of nostalgia and just look at the cool designs and things like that. So yeah, for me personally, like I said, once you can't even see your figures anymore, I'm not crazy about that. And I know there are actually some people that have figures that they've had to move into storage. Again, for me, it's not worth it personally. Now, I do understand if you're kind of saving figures up and eventually, you're going to move into a larger space and you'll be able to spread them out and to be able to see them. But yeah, for me personally, if you can't see your figures, it kind of defeats the purpose of even having them. And then this individual, I think he, said this in a joking way, but there's some truth here. He said, telling your wife just how much money you spent on them. Yeah, some people that would lead to a big argument. And, I said this in previous videos. Definitely, I think you should take care of your responsibilities first before you worry about collectibles. And the addiction can be real sometimes. There are some people that do get addicted to pop collecting. I think anything that brings you joy, anything that brings you happiness is it's possible to get addicted to it. And I actually have seen people that messed up their relationships by worrying so much about Funko Pops. Because when you're eating up a lot of the space, if you're living with somebody, it's not just your space you're eating up, that affects them as well. And if you're, like I said, if you're not being responsible and taking care of bills first, that's a problem in a relationship. So yeah, I just think you just got to be respectful. Basically, if you're in a relationship, you got to take the other person's feelings into consideration with your collecting. It does help, I guess, if you are actually dating somebody who is a collector. I think that probably would be a big help. But yeah, just try to consider other people's feelings, basically, when it comes down to it. So something else here is basically both of these comments relate to being careful about purchasing from people online, whether we're talking about like in Facebook groups or eBay, Mercari, whatever it may be. You definitely have to be careful. So based off of these comments, it got me thinking here, and I just want to share these tips with you that I think you should go by if you are going to purchase from other individuals. So first of all, I feel like a reliable seller, they're going to have pictures of the pop from different angles. I definitely don't like when I see postings and they are glam shots, shots by the company, and that's what their people are using to promote their sale. I don't trust that at all. I want to see the condition of the figure. And people that are really good, reliable pop sellers, I think they tend to already know that's what people want to see. So they go ahead and make sure they have multiple pictures from different angles. Now, yes, it's still possible for somebody to do something shady, and switch out the pops or whatever it may be, but at least it gives you a better chance of getting something that is in good condition. Also, I would say, always check a seller's reviews. Of course, there are reviews on eBay, Mercari, Amazon. It's worth it to take the time to look out reviews. And as far as Facebook groups go, me personally, I don't buy from people on Facebook anymore at all. I've had some negative experiences. I've seen some groups turn very ugly. It's just not for me personally. But yeah, it's best, I think, if you're gonna buy on Facebook, look for a group that has some sort of rating system where you can get a feel for people's reputation. Also, along with that, I say pay attention to where the pop is shipping from and how much that shipping cost is. Now, again, this is just me, but if I see that a pop is supposed to come from certain countries, I'm not going to buy it, because I know from certain countries there is a chance of it being a fake. So I'm just not going to risk that. And then there are some sellers that try to be slick. They'll have like a low price on the figure, but if you're not paying attention to that shipping, the shipping could be even more than the figure is. So just be careful about it. Look for those types of things if you are purchasing from individuals online. Again, these are just my suggestions here, kind of piggybacking off of what some other people have said. And the final thing I want to focus on here, I definitely wanted to address this, and I won't lie, I was so happy when I saw this comment come up, because I feel like it's something that needs to be addressed. So I'm going to read this comment here first. It says, I'm thinking Funko is making mistakes just because they're trying new things that the collector doesn't personally like. You all, and I know this is going to rub some people the wrong way. I'm sorry, but I just got to speak my mind on it. I think it is very selfish, and it comes across as very entitled when people complain about figures that they're not interested in or products that they're not interested in. Just because you are not interested in it, that doesn't mean that other people don't want it and that other people won't find some joy in hunting it down and adding it to their collection. I think it's important to realize that it's not all about you. It would not be smart for Funko just to focus on what one individual thinks they should make. They're a company that needs to be successful. And honestly, I feel like if you want to keep collecting, if you really like Funko Pops and you want to collect for a long time, you should support the company in having some diversity with the things that they put out, because that's going to lead to more people collecting, more success for Funko, which is going to allow them to put out more Funko Pops. So, for example, if you don't like sodas, or you don't like gold figures, or you don't like certain lines that they do of Funko Pops, you got to realize that it's helping the company because there are other people that are interested. So yeah, just like I said, I just think it's very dangerous to have that entitled attitude, and maybe dangerous is a little bit too extreme to say, but it's definitely negative, and I definitely think it sends out the wrong message to new collectors when they're looking on Instagram and they're looking on YouTube and they're trying to learn about the hobby, and they're looking at the feedback from individuals on social media, and all they're seeing is a bunch of negativity and people whining about figures that they think should not be made, or they're complaining about figures that haven't been made yet because they're being impatient and not waiting for Funko to try to get that license to put out the figures. Again, like I said earlier in this video, I don't know of another company that has as many licenses as Funko, that does as much as Funko in terms of making use of those licenses. I just feel like sometimes people have to be patient and got to realize that it is not all about you as the individual. All right, you all. So again, the focus here was on common mistakes that, Funko Pop collectors make. And I wanted to not just have this be like a gripe session or anything. And I don't want to like really just point the finger at individuals as well. And like I said, throughout this video, I've made a lot of these mistakes. I still sometimes make some of these mistakes. I still sometimes will do the impulse buys and things like that, or not consider space necessarily. As a matter of fact, it's not a Funko product, but I do have another collectible here from another company that I just got, and right now I don't know where in the world I'm going to put it. It is a large collectible, so I got to figure that out. So again, like I said, I didn't really think about the space ahead of time with that one, so I'm going to have to work that out. So yeah, I'm guilty of some of these things here, so I'm not trying to criticize or just put anybody down. I really want to do this video just to get people thinking and maybe give you some advice that might help you out. Again, I do appreciate everybody that took the time to share those comments and to share that advice. That is really awesome of you all, and I would like you all that are checking this video out up to this point, please share some more advice for new collectors in the comments. What do you have to say to them that you think is going to help them out in the long run? I would very much appreciate you sharing your ideas and your thoughts down there. But again, thank you all so much for taking the time to check this out. I really appreciate it. Please like the video if you haven't done so already. Share the video if you think it is going to help out other collectors, and I will talk to you all again real soon.